Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm joined by Dr. Shabir from his living room. Dr. Shabir, I have a question for you. So we often think about things like the coronavirus as being a test from God and perhaps a punishment for the things that we have done wrong or we've gone astray and God is trying to bring us back to the right path. But what about the fact that many of the prophets suffered difficulties in their lives, and it wasn't just one difficulty, it was like a major difficulty. Or, for example, in the case of the Prophet Muhammad, it was a series of difficulties that he endured through every phase of his life. So how do we understand the tests that the prophets went through? And what was the purpose of those tests?
Well, I wouldn't think that the coronavirus is a punishment from God. I think we need to understand natural phenomena in a broader light and the action of God in our universe. There are some things which God determined to happen, and those things will happen without fail. Nobody can prevent what God has determined to happen. Mm-hmm. But there are some other things which God permits to happen if there are causes leading up to that outcome. And when he permits those things to happen, I mean, he could stop them if he wants, and I'll get to that. But when he permits them to happen, it's because, bad as they are, they may have some accompanying good things about them. And so God is allowing them to continue for the sake of those good things. But also sometimes it's because the alternative is not good. If God were to stop those things, those evils, then that itself is not good. Now, let me explain that a little further. One issue is that our natural world as it is, system of cause and effect, is easy for us to study, and sometimes we don't know all of the rules, and it's hard for us to predict things. But the more knowledge we gain and the more we study the natural processes, the better we are at predicting how things will be, and we know what actions lead to bad outcomes, and so we avoid those actions. And on the other hand, we know what actions lead to good outcomes, and we do more of those actions to lead to good outcomes. But if our world operated all like in a topsy-turvy way, we could not predict what is happening, then we would not have control of our own affairs. Now, we could have left everything to God, and God is in full control, and he stops every disaster. So in that case, however, we would not know when God is stopping it or when there is some natural cause for why things stopped. Let me give a simple example that may illustrate the point a little bit better. We all know about the domino effect, right? You line up a series of dominoes, you hit one, the whole series gets knocked down with one knocking down the other, and so on, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say with that series of dominoes falling, God were to reach in with his finger, so to speak, and press down on one of the dominoes, so that one will not fall, and so too the ones subsequent to that one will not fall. But then our scientists will be looking around from all directions to find out what natural cause is there that prevents that domino from falling. And they will find no natural cause. And in the end, they will have to say, this world is not predictable. We don't know when dominoes will fall, when they will not fall, and why they fall and why they do not fall. So in that case, we could no longer predict things like dominoes falling or any other natural event in our world. So now with the coronavirus too, God can stop it from happening. But if he does that on his own, then we will be wondering, like, what causes coronavirus? How do we stop a virus like this? And if we're always relying on God to stop it for us, then we do not get control of our environment and our circumstances. So for reasons like this, God allows things like coronavirus to strike us, but he is a merciful God, and he will, in fact, make sure that it does not go away out of control. So he is merciful. Mm-hmm. So when a punishment when a thing like this happens, we should not think of it as a punishment from God, but rather we should think that there are certain natural things which are happening, and God is looking at that, and he will bring it under control if and when necessary, but he is leaving it up to us to a large extent for us to gain control of our own natural environment and circumstances, and for us to do the things which will bring about good results and to avoid the actions which will bring about the bad results.
What about, in relation to the prophets' lives and their suffering?
Yeah, so a lot of prophets did suffer, as you rightly pointed out, even our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So when they suffer, there could be some good reasons that come out of that as well. Out of suffering, character is built. And in situations of suffering, people turn back to God. They get a closer spiritual relationship with God. Whereas sometimes when human beings are left to themselves and everything is going well, we forget about God. So we lose out spiritually, whereas everything is going well physically, we are losing spiritually. And so sometimes God allows the suffering again, not that he deliberately caused it. It's not like he's thinking, okay, these people are all lazy and forgetful of me, so let me whip them back to their senses. We shouldn't think of it that way. We should think that there are certain things which are happening naturally in the world, and God is permitting them because one of the good things that may come out of those bad events is that people may turn back to God, and we see that in such circumstances, many people do turn back to God. They get closer to God. They are repentant of their sins. They are more conscious of the life hereafter. They want to do things which are pleasing to God. They want to serve humanity. A lot of compassion comes out in times of grief. So some people are in grief. Some others are offering compassion and help and being supportive and so on. So it's a balance sheet of good and evil, and God is keeping track of all of these things, and he's making sure that in the end there is overwhelming good, much more than the evil that we see. But sometimes we human beings, we focus on the evil that we notice and are not thankful enough for all of the good things that are happening. But God is watchful of the balance sheet, and he knows that there's a lot of good in our world. And when we think about it, we see as well that there is a lot of good despite the suffering that we notice.
I appreciate your explaining that, Dr. Shabir. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.